We are going to go ahead and call ourselves to order this afternoon. We have one item of business here to take care of today. It is a very important item of business and one that we don't take lightly and one that we haven't walked into without great consideration, thought, and prayer. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and move into public comment. We have a few people that are signed up. We'll allow them to speak in order. And then we'll ask for anyone else that's here. So if you've come here and you'd like to speak, we'll allow that even if you haven't signed up. And then after that, we'll go ahead and move into our one item on the agenda. Ms. City Secretary, if you'll walk us into public comment, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for participating in today's City Council meeting. Your input and your opinions are important to us, and we are glad that you're here to share them. At each posted meeting, we invite our fellow community members to address City Council regarding posted agenda items or topics related to city policy. Every speaker will have 3 minutes to address the council. At the end of 2.5 minutes, a warning beep will alert you that you have 30 seconds left to wrap up your thoughts. We have 2 items on the agenda today. If you're speaking on something that's not on the agenda, please remember that council is limited in how they can communicate with you about items not on the agenda. They may refer that item to a future agenda. They may recite a statement of fact or policy, or they may refer you to staff. So when you come to the microphone today, please state your name, whether or not you live in the Amarillo city limits, and then go ahead and address council with your comments. Mayor, we have 4 speakers today. Our first is Keith Grays. Is Mr. Grays in the audience? And if not, Jeffrey McGonigal. And while Mr. McGonigal makes his way up, Paul Harpole will be after him.
Before you start the clock, I think 4 of us got the memo from you, Mayor, to wear the orange shirt. So
Appreciate it.
Okay. We found that humorous? Okay. Okay. The crossroads. In the mayoral campaign, 2 people spoke of Amarillo being at a crossroads. That was the mayor and I. Today, August 23rd, 2023, we are sitting dead center at the crossroads. I saw a vision of what's beyond the crossroads. One vision is a city filled with apathy, a city with an unspoken standard of mediocrity, a city with a fear-based energy, a citizenry that states, that's Amarillo. Last week I brought a poem and part of it said, the city manager is the one who sets the tone. A standard of excellence he must own. This trickles down to those he guides below, those seeds of excellence he does sow. But above the guide is the 5 guys that cannot remain in disguise. So we're back to the crossroads. So sitting dead center of the crossroads is the city manager. Fate is taking its course. This is our opportunity to rise as a city with a standard of excellence, a city where each and every citizen states, it's great to be me. So the choice is at hand. Does the council adopt and hire someone who walks the talk of a standard of excellence, or do they hire someone who will be okay with the status quo? Hire the one to take us to new heights of excellence, then it's all about all. It's all about all of us. Hire someone of the status quo, and this reveals what we already know. Know that Amarillo is on watch. Amarillo is on watch. I'll end with a question. I had the same question last week. Will things these 2 years be done fairly, or will they be done fairly? P.S. The entrance to our palace, our hall, our city hall, our most decorated building in the city, the entrance far from excellence. This is a reflection of leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next, Mr. Harpole, and after Mr. Harpole, our final speaker will be Gary Pittner.
Good afternoon. Thank you for welcoming me. Thank you for your efforts for our city. I do have the privilege today to come and see many of the employees who work so hard for this city and have for a lot of years. They are diligent, they're honest, they're forthright, and they honor our city with the jobs that they do. So I really want to express my thanks to all the city employees who now work with you all. But I want us to all remember that the commission and the mayor have one employee. The city manager council form of government was established early in the 19th century, and we were the second city, the first in the Southwest to adopt it. It's been a tried and true way to operate a city. And when this gets so sophisticated now with all of these things that a city manager does, he's like the CEO of 20 different departments. It requires so much, and it requires somebody who is concentrating on that full time. And I know you all spend an awful lot of time on this, but I think everyone would agree you need somebody at that next level to do all the little daily things that are surprising every day. They're never going to get bored. They're never going to feel anything other than a push to really manage the city. And so I want to also thank Jarrett. I was part of the group that helped hire him. It's obvious to me from the agenda and the things going on in the community that he may be gone after today. Looks that way. I say very sadly that I will miss you, Jarrett. And I believe that you have done a forthright job for our city. You've grown back some of the middle managers who left when we lost another city manager without cause. And I just wish you the best. And I wish all the city employees the best. You do a yeoman's job, and I say thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Next, Mr. Pittner, and I believe Keith Grays is in the audience now, so we'll have him after Gary.
Mayor, Council, thank you. My name is Gary Pittner. For all practical purposes, I'm a lifelong resident of Amarillo. We moved away for a couple of years and then decided we needed to come back home. So we came back home in December, so it's good to be back home. I retired several years ago after a 40-year career with the Panhandle Regional Planning Commission. 32 of those years as that organization's executive director. And I had the honor of working with literally hundreds of local elected officials, just like the five of you sitting behind this table over the years, and also over those same decades working with dozens of city managers across the Panhandle in the state of Texas, for that matter. I also had the privilege of hiring a lot of young aspiring public administrators over the years out of school looking for their first job in public administration, many of whom wanted to be city managers. After several years in our shop, they had opportunities and moved into that profession, and I'm very proud of those successful guys that I hired as young men who went on to be city managers in places like Midland and Lubbock and Plainview and Amarillo and Canyon and Wellington and Stratford and Canadian and on down that list. So there are a lot of Gary's kids, if you will, and bless their hearts. They're out there doing good work for their communities and honoring their profession. So I've probably had the privilege of hiring more city managers to be than just about anybody in the territory, and I'm proud of them all. It was a pleasure to work for and with the past 5 city managers for me here in Amarillo, going back to John Stiff. John used to scare the bejesus out of me, but he was an honorable man and a fine individual, as were John Ward, Alan Taylor, Jared Atkinson, and now Jared Miller. So that proves I'm old, number one. But it also, I think, proves that this community has had some very honorable individuals with high integrity serving in the city manager's position. So, Jared, I don't know if he's around. I want to publicly thank him for his hard work and dedication and for the many positive accomplishments that occurred in City Hall during his tenure. Advice, if I have any, for the council, and you can take it or leave it. With $5, and you can go buy fancy latte at a coffee shop here in town. But I'm going to state the obvious, but I don't think you can hear it too much. Your decision regarding the next manager will be the most consequential decision that you will make as elected officials at the municipal level here in City Hall. So your decision will set the trajectory, good or bad, for where we're going to be at so many levels. Unfortunately, I've seen councils over the past not do the kind of job that you would want them to, and I know you will. It's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of due diligence on our part, and I will encourage you individually and collectively to do everything you can to make the wisest decision, and I know that's in your hearts to do. So find us a leader with high educational credentials, a professional with proven city management experience, a person with the highest degree of ethics and integrity, and maybe more importantly, a person with the right demeanor to serve the citizens of this community. Remember, as Mayor Harpole said, you're looking for a leader for one of the largest cities in the state of Texas, a city with 2,600, 2,700 employees and a budget approaching these days about $500 million. You have big shoes to fill. I wish you the very best. The 200,000 of us plus are looking toward y'all to do a good job, and we're counting on you to do your very best. And we wish you the very best in this endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
And our last speaker signed up is Keith Grays.
Yes, sir. Not this time.
I'm Keith Grays. I live at 2326 Northwest 11th Avenue. I'm a lifelong native Amarilloan, and I stand here today to say that I have worked diligently in North Heights community, which is where I was raised, and no matter what happens here today, I want to leave on your minds that North Heights, Amarillo is like a jungle out of Africa. And I don't think too many of you here have ever driven through there. If you have, call me and let me know what you saw. I'm either going blind or I'm seeing exactly what I'm seeing. Thank God that just as recently as yesterday, the abandoned, burned twice in 1 year apartment complex at 206 North Madison began demolition services. And within 24 hours, it looks like it's going to be a neighborhood from just that one. If you go to the old Ponderosa apartments, there's, I don't want to turn this into a race thing because it's citizens, but I have to use this, that there are two African-American men who their heart's desires was to be developers in that community. That's a community, for most of you who don't know, where the city sewer ran through that part of the city with no PVC piping. It just ran through the nicest neighborhood and the most valued property, valuation-wise, in that quadrant of Amarillo. Across the street from Ross Rogers Golf Course, I don't know how those guys teed off and not smelled it. It was atrocious. They finally got that over the years. We were the last to get paved streets. When they were developing South Amarillo back in the middle part of the 80s, we were sitting up looking at roads that had still dirt roads, and they were paving the alleys in developments. And so it's just been a long history of things, not just here of late, but there are a lot of people that don't come in these rooms because they don't feel like they're heard. I believe that you guys are listening. I believe whatever happens here today. Thank you, Mr. Miller, for your service. I was able to apologize to him. I told him one day that I didn't like him, but I loved him with the love of Christ. And I'll tell the next city manager what I don't like, but I'll still love you with the love of Jesus Christ. And I thank you guys for where you're sitting. I'm sure this is not an easy job. It's an arduous task for anyone who would be elected to these positions. But remember, y'all, Amarillo is not just about just the 200,000 people, but it's about a low to moderate income, dilapidating community called North Heights. And if you haven't driven through there, drive through there and take a look at what we have to live with. It looks like something out of a jungle. It's sad that we have to wake up in the morning and try to get kids to school and drive past these conditions. This is not about black or white. It's about taxes. Where are the tax dollars for that quadrant? Where are our tax dollars? You guys aren't the ones, but while we're sitting here dealing with these issues. I know we need quality of life. I love the Kel Seligers and those people who coined that phrase years ago. But an $8 million swimming pool, and whoever gave this guy the money to put 125 homes between Northwest 9th Street and Northwest 20th Street, and the new structures over there look worse, with the weeds grown up and the buildings boarded up and porta toilets in front of it. Go to my neighborhood where I live. Go over there and see what I see. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith.
Mayor, that was our last signed up speaker. I do want to add we had 4 individuals that provide written comments through our public comment registration, and those are in front of council.
So I would ask if we can post those comments so that citizens can see it. You could remove the names possibly there, Ms. City Secretary, but then that way anybody that hears that would be able to see what those comments are if they were willing to look online. I would at this time ask if there's anyone else here that would like to speak. Okay, let me recognize Mr. Deepak Patel real quick.
Thank you, Mayor and Council members. Good afternoon. This item is not in agenda, but Paul Harper is here, and I'd like to say something about this. Paul Harper, 2016 and 15th, all the town hall meetings, he just declared, just Embassy Suites, they bring a lot of business. Every weekend, areas, hotels full, all this drama and all this, we like to investigation this deal. Reason? This is single convention this hotel bring in this town. These hotels is a burden to the city of Amarillo, $1 million every year plus property tax, we lose that building. Then after Embassy Suite 2016, there are almost 8 hotels new built in this town, and 3 hotels I built. And I pay the property tax, I pay my regular all these employees' taxes, and payroll all this time to time every Friday. My question to direct to the Paul Harper, why this happens on all this drama by Dan Quant and this Paul Harper teams, they bring this burden to the city of Amarillo for next 20 years. They collect the tax 15%. The competition in the town, they collect the 15% tax, and city and state reimbursement them back. People don't know about the city of Amarillo. They not pay the property tax. EDC or some organization pay for their property tax, and we hard work for our project, our own risk. City never help any single dime. My question is there, because I like to investigation these hotels, because all this propaganda they sent to the state and city by CBP that time. All this figure is a fake figure to the state, and they approve the tax exam for this occupancy tax. And another thing, that time they breached the contract. What happens? These hotels, we 4 diamond hotels. When city of Amarillo opened got the CO from city of Amarillo, this is not 4 diamond. 4 diamond, when happened 4 diamonds? When then hotel is under contract, that time they just like 2022, in an October, they start to the 4 diamond rating, and they get the 4 diamond rating, and they sell the hotels. Another thing, when they sell the hotel to Summit Hotel Austin, Summit Hotel paid $20 million, top of the $209,000 per room, top of the $20 million for all this incentive. The seller, they cash $20 million cash for this deal. So now you guys realize what's going on in a propaganda in a downtown. That might direct complaint to City of Amarillo, council members. Another thing, the Globe News donor, the lady Mary Bushamini, that time she request, because she donate a good amount of the dollars in a Globe News Center. So she a lot of time requests, can make sure people see from the 10th Street, my Globe News Center, direct from the 10th Street. That time, I remember that she requested this desk, and they say, the owner says, we just turn around, people see the Globe News Center, they not change the design. Another thing, she request, okay, when my senior citizen from Amarillo, they attend the show in a Globe News Center, after the show midnight, maybe rain or heavy snow or something, so we need a public pathway from the cross of the hotels. The developers never put the cross of the hotel public passage pathway. This is the breach of contract. You guys realize that you guys take action about this thing. 4 Diamond, they breach the contract. No, there is no public passage pathway pass through that north of Globe News Center to South Parking Garage cross. Then never they put the public passageway. Another thing, how get the CO? Because all these documents in a city contract. So city contract, code enforcement, we just visit with the code enforcement. They don't know about anything. So how city issue the CO without, they breach the contract, they not put the 4 diamonds, and they not put the public passage pathway. This is my request. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. At this time, I'm going to recognize Reverend Brashears. I saw his hand, and then we'll come back over to you, sir. Reverend, were you still next? Okay. And then the man behind.
I'm Reverend Rupert Brashears, to the mayor, to the city council. There's a saying, he who laughs last, laughs best. However, this is not a laughing matter. This last administration have left a mess in this city. Now, I got some things I want to say to Jared, but I'm not going to say them. I remember John Ward, and when Kel Selinger was the mayor and John Ward was the city manager. John Ward became the city manager at about 29 years old. And he worked for this city for over 20 years as the city manager and did a wonderful job. If you had any problems, you couldn't tell whether you were black or white with him. Come on in, Reverend. How you doing? And he would listen to you. And if there was any validity to what you said, he would investigate it. He didn't judge you by what other people thought. He judged you by the way you handled yourself with him. And then Kel Selinger, he didn't get to go too far. He only became a United States Senator. I remember one time when I was on a plane, and I saw him years later. I asked the stewardess, I said, can I get off first? Because there's somebody I see that I know, and I want to see, does he remember me? I got off the plane, gobs of people on it, and the people piled out. After a while, here he came. I said, Senator. Yes, sir. I said, I'm Reverend Brashears. Do you remember me? Why, yes, Reverend Brashears, I know who you are. How you doing? Both of those men would make you feel like you were the top of the heap, cream of the crop. But I want to leave you with a poem, and you know it very well when it comes to Jared, come to this gentleman. You got to know when to hold, know when to fold, know when to walk away, know when to run. You never count your money while you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the deal is done. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Please come on forward. After this lady, sir.
My name is Jim Witten, and My wife Barbara and I have been residents of Amarillo for the last 29 years. We love our city, we love our community, and I appreciate the chance to address you guys who've got a lot on your shoulders. I've had a lot of friends and neighbors who've asked me, why is our current city manager being let go? And I would appreciate being able to answer them, and I can't right now. So if you could articulate clearly what it is that has been disappointing about his performance to date, such that, as Gary said, you're willing to make such a big move, and what qualities are you looking forward to pursuing in a new city manager that our current city manager lacks?
Appreciate that, sir. Thank you. At this time, ma'am.
Thank you, Council, and it is good to see you all for the first time. And Mr. Mayor, I have been trying to reach you. I called one day and the phone rang all day long. There was not no one to answer the phones. I know that I saw on TV that you were working on the budget. Let me just go back and say that my name is Verlinda Pride Watson. I grew up on the north side. I started working for the city of Amarillo at 14 years old for the wastewater treatment plant under a low-income status. That's what the city was doing. Put the young people to work. And I loved that job, okay? My career took me all the way from Amarillo to Northern California to Southern California and to New York City. Because of some things that happened, the terrorist problem in New York, I returned back home to Amarillo, Texas, after being with Girl Scouts of the USA for over 25 years as an executive. I stand here, I know that the council, you have your hands full, and yes, you do. But I love Amarillo, and I'm here to help. I left my college. That's why I was a little bit late. I'm taking classes, some classes, but I had to come because coming back home to Amarillo was good, except for when I became employed with the city of Amarillo. I have called Mr. Jared Miller. I've got no results. I've talked to Mr. Floyd over there. No results. I've been to HR, and I don't know if I've asked them to get back in contact with me. This has been since June the 20th, and I resigned under duress, meaning that I love my job. And I see that Mr. Fowler is here from the Civic Center. This has to do with the Civic Center and the GNC, which primarily I worked at the GNC. For those of you who do not know, Globe News Center of Performing Arts. I've been hurt by my city, and I'm not going to stand for it. And the last person I talked to was Mr. Floyd over there, and I said the same thing to him. He told me he was going to talk to some man named Rick. Who is Rick? The whole time I was employed, I wouldn't know about Rick.
And we appreciate you speaking. If you would, you can grab me after this, or I'd be happy to give you my cell phone number.
I would love that.
And that way you don't have to call the office.
Okay.
I'll do what I can to help you.
Yes, this has to do with the Civic Center, and there has to be some things done at the Civic Center for the citizens, for us, the taxpayers.
I'm glad to listen to you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you for speaking up. I believe I had one hand back here. Yes, sir.
I'm Richard Detterman. I've lived in the city of Amarillo for about 32 years. I live in Pleasant Valley. Mr. Mayor, Councilman, I'm glad to see you guys here. I'm glad to see that you're having the public meetings that were taken away by the last administration. Like this lady that just was here, I tried to call the mayor's office too, and I understand because I knew some of the previous mayors and some of the previous city managers, and I'm glad that you are taking a look at this. I think that a manager is a manager. He's supposed to manage. He has subordinates that are supervisors over departments. They should answer to him. I think that he probably, and I don't know what Mr. Miller did. I don't really know. I know some of the departments that he's supposed to be over are lacking in a lot of things, a lot of ways. I've called the street department. I live on Bonita Avenue off of River Road. On the corner, there's a gully that comes off when it rains. It washes all the dirt and everything right down into the little slough there. There's a little bridge and creek. And this causes the street to be like 1 lane wide. And one of the past mayors and his manager took a look at it, and they took care of it. But they let me let me tell them about it. This is the problem I think that we had with maybe Mr. Miller, maybe some of the supervisors of your other departments. And I'm not talking about any one department. I think that somebody needs to manage the managers of those departments. When you hire a manager, I hope that you'll hire someone who can look over the departments. If he's got a supervisor that's not doing his job, I hope that he can do his job and replace that party. Gentlemen, thank you for your service.
Appreciate your time. So,
Can I get your last name to make sure I get it right in the record? Was it Sterling?
so I have James Skank. I have a gentleman back here that raised his hand. He's going to speak, and then we'll go to you, Mr. Skank. Yes, sir, if you're ready. Yes, sir.
Well, good afternoon. I'm Cliff Craig, I should say that. This is the first time I've taken the occasion to speak to the council. I've been a very happy citizen of Amarillo since 1959, when a young lady at the University of Texas captured my heart, and she lived here, and I've never regretted a single day having gotten back here and married her and made this my home. Correct me if I'm wrong, but as I understand, the city manager works for this council. And this council is responsible for the direction and the manner in which that position is carried out to the city of Amarillo and to all of us citizens. It's obviously a huge, huge position, a huge role for any one person to carry out. And it's essential that that person has the backing of the city council. I would assume that to be the case. All of that said, I also have come to understand that the termination of Mr. Miller is made on the basis of without cause. And that our previous city commissioner, or city manager rather, was also terminated by the council at that time without cause. As an employer in this city of Amarillo, and have been for a great number of years, I find it very hard to go about recruiting good people to an organization who, in responsible positions, make the decision to terminate and seemingly have either the inability or unwillingness to identify, as Mr. Whitten has called upon the council to do. Why is this without cause? I've never known organizations, well, I've known organizations who do that. However, I also know that good people do not want to be a part of organizations who do that. And so I implore the council to think long and hard about this. And what are you communicating to that pool of people that you're going to be out there recruiting? That will not be a secret that the city of Amarillo kicks you out without cause. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Skank, if you would.
Wasn't really going to say anything since I've been with you guys since 8 o'clock this morning. But, you know, there's some history here that I've been observing since long before, well, all the way back to Jerry Hodge, to Kel Sulliger, to Trent, watching the city work. Up about 2008, 2009, things started adjusting in this town that made things sort of shift over into a thing that some citizens really liked, but the majority really didn't, because they were seeing the efforts going in one direction and not sort of around the city. You know, and when you're thinking about what your job now is, because there is a separation that's fixing to happen. We had, as the gentleman, as Cliff said there, we had a without cause last time, and we had plenty of applicants that came along with Jared. There's going to be people. One thing I think, there's going to be people that want to have this job. And we have to be careful with what it is, who it is, and how they function with us. Jared will probably land on his feet somewhere. We can't be all stiff up about that. John Stiff wouldn't say, hey, don't want to go get stiff up. They're going to hire John Ward, who, it's amazing to me, we had those 20-something year city managers, and then we just went ba-bing, ba-bing, ba-bing. I've watched government for a while in local thing here, and I'm really sort of stumbling for words about, seems like a lot of them that we look at, they've had trouble keeping a job, as one did that was our interim here and made light of my comment and sort of got himself terminated, or I don't know, and that was without cause, and I don't know why, but as we walk into this, one thing I noticed today in this budget, with lack of that particular person being here, you guys didn't miss a beat. You are on top of this stuff. Stay on top of this stuff. Help our city, and we'll support you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, at the risk of seeing another hand go up and further delaying our meeting, I would ask if we're okay to go ahead and move forward. I appreciate all of the public comment. I appreciate everyone that's willing to get up and speak. That's not an easy thing to do. No one that gets up and speaks is not listened to or not heard. It's important that you speak. It's important that we listen. And then please know we're doing our best. So we're we are 5 volunteers. I get to be the lead volunteer up here, and so everything that we're fixing to do from here forward has been and will be done in the way of what we know and feel is best for not only the organization that we're helping to work alongside, but also the city and our community as a whole. So I think we can just move right into item 3A. I would ask Ms. City Secretary if she needs anything. Do you have any names or information that you need us to gather before we move forward?
No, sir.
Okay. Item 3A, discuss and consider separation agreement with the city manager. So this item is a discussion and a consideration of an approval for this separation agreement between the city of Amarillo and the city manager, Jared Miller, and the authorization for the mayor to sign this agreement. So today, we would actually formally vote on the authorization for me to sign this, and then once signed, it'll be accepted and we'll move forward. We also have a discussion. This is our only action item here today, but we have a discussion. I think that in a meeting like this, it's important for us to be able to tell you that we have a plan and that we have a really good plan. And so I'm fine with hearing, the look backs, and I think it's important to look back, and I think some of you guys need to know what we saw, and there'll be a time and a place for that. This isn't the time or the place right now, but there are opportunities to speak very respectfully about just occurrences and situations that we just either struggled with or needed improved. However, today's meeting is for a look forward and what our plan is, and we owe that to you, and we will instill the confidence in you or in ourselves, and for you to have the confidence in us to know that we will continue to move this ship forward in the right direction. At this time, council, do you guys have any questions or discussion over this separation agreement?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
We accept the termination agreement that we allow you to sign.
Okay. I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
A second.
Okay. Before we move forward, I would like the public to know we've been in multiple meetings over this. So this is not something that was communicated, kind of in a closed-door meeting, except for executive session. We've had attorneys that have worked on this on both sides. It does have some financial implications in it. It's all public. It's what was contracted before. We feel like the contract, as it was stated, was very deliberate in what it would do. And so the only thing that I would address is when it comes down to with cause and without cause, that's not quite as black and white. So, if you look at the definition of a with cause, that is a very, very damaging thing, usually to an organization that would cause that. And so Mr. Miller has done nothing to constitute anything with cause. And so this action is an agreement to separate. But I can tell you that the gentleman's been a true professional over the last 3 to 4 weeks since our first conversation. And the first day that I asked him, hey, would you be willing to sit down and visit with myself and another council member on where our struggles are, what we're doing, where we need to go, and truly what we've been elected to do and in representing our community. And he has walked this out with integrity and respectfulness on both sides, and I feel like this council has done our very best. I know that the staff has been put in an awkward position, and it's not been an easy, fun couple meetings, and there's lots of talk, but I know that we're going in a good direction, and so I just want the public to know that this isn't the first time that this has come up, and we're just pulling the trigger here. We've been deliberate, and we've been slow about it to make sure that everything's heard and all options are looked at. I have a motion and a second.
I do. Before we vote, a couple of things. One is, and I don't know whether it is if Mick is here, but can you just clarify a little bit of the with cause and without cause from a legal perspective? And number two is there anything in this agreement that you feel like you would want to point out to us, or anything about it that we need to just be aware of?
So, Mr. City Attorney, would you mind giving us maybe the definition of with and without cause, and then maybe a couple examples of that?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor and Council Member. First of all, I'm not the City Attorney.
That's correct.
I served interim here in different positions since I left the City Attorney post to assist the legal staff, and I've done so in this context. I have had a retention agreement with the city since 2015. So in any event, just like virtually every other major Texas city, when a city manager is hired, they're hired on a contract basis. The terms of that contract are built around the standard contract from the International City Managers Association, and Mr. Miller's original contract and the one amended in April of 2023 is no exception. It does include definition of termination with cause and termination without cause. A termination with cause under those contracts, including Mr. Miller's, really involve, number one, as you would expect, conviction of a crime that's a felony or a crime of moral turpitude, or a willful failure to faithfully perform duties anticipated under the contract. As the mayor stated earlier, that certainly did not occur here in Mr. Miller's contract, either one of those. So the separation agreement is that. It is not, you will not find in that document, if it's adopted today, the word termination or the word severance. It is an agreement between the parties who are entitled to make such an agreement for the city of Amarillo, and that is the city council and the city manager. So that's really the only term I'd like to point out, Les, is that term. Otherwise, it's, I think, in line with the terms of the April 2023 contract with Mr. Miller. Be happy to answer any other questions.
And what would be your legal advice to council as to when people ask for more details?
Well, that's also a good question. I'll be happy to give you detailed legal advice in executive session and you individually in my role as your lawyer when that occurs. But I think your best bet is to, because it is an employment arrangement, that you should keep that in mind in making comments to your constituents, and that the terms of the agreement really speak for themselves. And your role as city council to set the policies for the city in the council manager form of government, I would just answer, I think, Les, that you performed that role in this context and not get into details about performance of a employee. Even though it's a city manager, it's still an employment situation. We try to protect employees' privacy rights.
Well, and that's kind of what I thought you would say, because in any employee situation, really any business, any organization, no matter the level of the employee, you're never talking publicly about the reasons why you made that decision. There are multiple reasons why, and I think what legal would be, but it's also it's the best thing to do for all involved. So I know the questions are out there, but for the best interest of everyone, and I think Mr. Miller is why that we have to handle this the way that it is, because I think it's best for everyone involved.
So I'd apologize for not stating that he is our acting or interim attorney for this particular issue. That is what we felt was best for staff, and I think just helped us to get the project discussed in the right way and listed correctly. So thank you for clarifying that. I don't have anything further that I need to probably weigh into on this. I would ask if anybody else has anything else that they would like to say.
Well, I'll say one more thing.
One more.
Before we vote is, this is, and I'm just going to speak personally. When I came into this, as I stated, I came in with an open mind. But I've come to a point where based on information that I spent a lot of time gathering and looking at, is really where it's going to determine where my vote is. And I feel, although this is a tough decision and it was not easy to get there, I feel 100% comfortable in the vote that I'm about to cast. There may be questions that people in the community have about how we came to this point, or what happened, or who did what, or who talked to what. But I can tell you, as I've worked with this council since I was elected in the runoff, and even to this decision that will be made today, whatever that may be, I can tell you that the gentlemen sitting behind me have done their homework as well. They've looked into this. They realize, I think, the importance of this decision and this vote that we're looking for. There's some people here. I've had an opportunity to be on the front row of several of these for the last 20 years. Some of you have experienced it. It does not fall light on my ears of where we are in making a move like this. I understand the significance of it. I think our fellow council members have understand the significance of it. I think we've all come together independently, or we have all come independently to come to this point. And we realize that it's something that you give a lot of thought to. And I just want to thank my fellow council members for doing that same due diligence and being able to be where we are today. So I want to assure the community that you have 5 people up here who spent a lot of time in this. We spent a lot of time in executive session. We had a lot of conversations about this because I think all of us realize the importance of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. With no further discussion, I will ask all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That will be accepted with a 5-0 vote. Item 3B is a discussion about the interim city manager. It's not an action item to appoint the interim city manager. We need to have a discussion, and then I think that we, as your elected representatives, will listen to you and want to hear what you have to say as well. What I would like to say is I've had 2.5 years of working with Mr. Miller, and I can tell you the one thing that he's done exceptionally well is he has built a team around him and beneath him that is fantastic. For 2 years as City Council Place 1, I sat on the outside for the most part. I didn't really get to see the inner workings. I didn't get to see the heavy lifting. I really didn't get to experience a lot of the talents, expertise that we had in our assistant city managers, just here and there. In the past 5 months, I've been able to really get the firsthand experience, and so I can tell you, Andrew Freeman, Laura Storrs, Rich Gagnon, Floyd Hartman, and then every one of our directors beneath them, all of our boots on the ground that are out there working. We have a solid team, and this comes at a credit to Mr. Miller. He hired the majority of these people, and they have the abilities to do a very, very good job to fully perform in all of the areas with the tolerances that we have. We expect nothing here that's perfect. In our town with our citizens, we don't expect every little bit of trash never to blow. But what we do expect in our city and in our staff is a certain level of performance. And so what I would say with the with cause or without cause, that goes to a legal issue, like a moral turpitude issue or a crime. What we really have been looking at is a performance issue. And so the performance is mandatory in this position. And for us, we have a direction, we have a vision, and we need to be able to work together and work with the leader that's steering that ship. So right now we have a deputy. His name's Andrew Freeman. He's already installed in that, so he was acting as the city manager anytime that Jared Miller wasn't there. I can tell you through the flooding, Mr. Miller was out of town, and Andrew Freeman and I worked very well together and with the other council, and he showed his abilities through that, and then in a lot of other areas. And so I'm excited to get to work with Mr. Freeman. He is your deputy. He will go ahead and take the steering wheel here for the next several weeks, and then we will come back in September. We have every intention to put forth a search, to put out applications. We will discuss the potential of a committee or a consulting firm and what that looks like and who we may want to work with. We'll take our time. This thing could take 6 months. It could take 12 months. We don't know. Deputy Freeman may step in and he may show all of us just how we have our next city manager. We don't know that that's not the case either. The harder we look, the better he may look. And I hope that's the case. I think there's a lot of value from growing from within. But we owe you as a council, we owe you, our constituents and our taxpayers. We have to look, we have to go through that process. And I agree with what was said. This is the most important, influential, and impactful decision that we get to make here as your elected representatives. We are going to get this one right. And I can tell you that I've been counting the costs, and if I do nothing, I'm getting it wrong. And so you have to hear me say that. I'm not willing to get this one wrong. So I hope you guys have the confidence in us to give us a little time. This is not a place that any of us wanted to be. I think if we really had thought through it, we might have thought twice before we signed up and ran for office. But we're here, and we have the desire and the willingness and the energy and the effort to do you a good job. And so I appreciate for how Mr. Miller's walked through this deal. I pray and I wish the best for him and his family. This is not what we want. This is what is best for the organization and the community. And so from here, this is our plan. This is the way we're going to move forward. I would ask if anyone else on council has anything that they would like to say, and then in this discussion, we can just look at it as a communication piece to let you know the plan moving forward, or we can actually have a working discussion. I'm open for whatever you guys feel is best here.
I would say, and I'll address that in just a second, but one other thing I'd just like to add to this is somebody mentioned in the comment period that we're at a crossroads now, okay? And I agree. But it's not just the 5 people that are sitting up here that are at a crossroads. Every one of you sitting in here, anybody watching, anybody in this community, we're all at the same crossroads. And I would just encourage everyone, as we will, and I've been thinking about this as we've been going through this, is what I'm trying to do now is look at everything through the prism of a potential city manager candidate. When they see, what will they think? As we've gone through making this decision and what we've done, and I'm sure, some people may think, well, you've not been in office long enough, or this is 2015 all over again, or whatever you say. I was there. This is not 2015. We get along. We're working with each other. We're learning to trust each other. I think how we've handled this has been done extraordinarily professionally on both sides of the equation. But I would just encourage you to think about this as a community. If there's ever a time for us to now come together and be working together on things, now is the time. And the best way to work together, I think, is through communication. It's not talking about each other, but talking with each other. I have heard things over the last few days as people are talking about things that I'm like, where did that come from? Who in the world said that? Trust me, if you're hearing things out there, there's 99.9% chance they're not true. Our phone numbers are all out there on the board. Call any one of us at any time if you hear something or want to know. And if we legally can tell you, I will, and I'm sure these other gentlemen will. So let's work together through this. As we're talking about doing things in the community, let's work together so that when we're presenting a picture of a potential city manager candidate of this community, and we've got a long ways to go on this. There are a lot of things that have happened in the last several years that have divided us. But the truth is, if we're going to get a good city manager candidate to come into this, and if we're going to do what's best for the community, let's start talking with each other. And I think that will help get us there. Thank you.
Okay, I want to say one more time, Mr. Miller, I respect you. I appreciate your professionalism through all this. I know this is not easy. It's not easy for us either. But thank you for being a true man and integral about this process and letting us do what we know we need to do. I think that concludes our meeting. I thank you for your professionalism, and I thank you for everybody that came here with the civility and the way in which you guys spoke to us, and I believe that you can hear us listening. And so we're going to continue to walk and be alongside of you guys as we walk this out. We don't have an action item on this, so we're going to move, and I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn. We're going to let you guys get back to your work week here.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
You're adjourned. Thank you guys for coming.